Hey guys, yesterday was St. Patrick's Day, and one of the things I love to do on St. Patrick's Day is read a book from Irish folklore. So today I'm going to read to you from Finn McCall, The Giant of Knockmany Hill. It's written by Tomie de Paola. Now you might recognize his name from a book we read earlier in the year, 26 Fairmount Avenue. This story, though, instead of being a personal narrative like 26 Fairmount Avenue, this one is a story that he wrote that is based in stories that were told over many generations in Ireland. So I'm going to go ahead and read to you Finn McCall, The Giant of Knockmany Hill. In olden times, when Ireland's glens and woods were still filled with fairies and leprechauns, giants, too, lived on that fair Emerald Isle. One of the finest of those big folk was Finn McCall, who was wed to the lovely great lass, Unag. They made their home on the top of Knockmany Hill. Now, as any good giant, Finn McCall had his work to do, so he was often away from home. Lovely Unag didn't seem to mind, for there was plenty to keep her own hands busy, spinning, knitting, and even giving a pretty touch to the great house. Life was very pleasant indeed. One morning, when Finn McCall was busy working with his kin, building a causeway to Scotland, the word came that Cuchulainn was coming. Cuchulainn was a giant too, and without a doubt the strongest in that part of the world. When he walked, the very earth trembled, and with one blow of his fist, he had flattened a thunderbolt, so it looked like a pancake. He was so proud of that feat that he kept the thunderbolt in his pocket to show all just how strong he was. Every giant in Ireland had been given a good beating by Cuchulainn. Every giant, that is, except Finn McCall. And Cuchulainn swore by the green that he would never rest, day or night, winter or summer, until Finn McCall was added to his list. So far, Finn had been smart enough. He kept moving about whenever he heard that Cuchulainn was in the neighborhood. But this time, Cuchulainn was sure to get him. So Finn left the causeway and sped off for Knockmany Hill, his house, and his darling Unag. "Finn, my love," said Unag, greeting him at the door. "What brings you home so early from your work?" "The chance to get a sight of you, my sweet thing," said Finn. Since he was as honest as the summer day is long, he added, "and to keep out of the way of Cuchulainn. He's after me." Unag soothed her husband. She brought him his slippers and lit a pipe for him. She stirred up the peat fire so it would be cozy. Then she set down a huge mug of stout and cut a gigantic slab of soda bread for her dearie. "Finn, husband of mine, enough is enough," said Unag as gently as she could. "For years you've been hiking around from one place to another to avoid this Cuchulainn. Why, you even built our house high on this windiest of hills, so you'd be able to spy him coming. You'll not get a moment's rest until you stand fast and face him." "Aye, I'll be getting plenty of rest if I stand fast and he knocks me down. I don't have the heart to face a man who can make a young earthquake just with his walk, and who carries around a flattened thunderbolt in his pocket just to prove his strength." At that, Knockmany Hill gave a little dance. "He's coming," said Finn, his face turning a fine shade of pale green. "Now hush," said Unag, "and give me time to think. Do you worry that I wouldn't do all I can to help you settle this matter once and for all? Unog then worked a charm the fairies had taught her. She took 9 woolen threads, each a different color, and braided them into the braids. She put one around her right arm, one circling her heart, and the third around her right ankle. Now, nothing she did could fail. Next, she sent around to all the neighbors to borrow 1 and 20 iron frying pans. She hid them in 1 and 20 loaves of bread that she baked on the fire in the usual way. She set them in the cupboard with some bread she had baked the day before. She then took a pot of milk and made it into a fresh, wet cheese, and put it along with some white stones at the foot of the cradle she had made up. Now, my darling, she said, handing Finn some baby clothes, put these on and do everything just as I'm about to tell you. And remember, she said at the last, Cullen's strength lies in the brass finger he has on his right hand. Now, quick, into the cradle, because I hear that man mounting at the door. So, right now, Unog is having Finn do some strange things, and she did some strange things herself. What do you think her plan is? All right, woman, bellowed the giant at the door. Where is that coward Finn McCull that I've been chasing after all this time? Well, well, said Unog, with her sweetest smile. Now, isn't it a shame? Finn was off working on the causeway when some important family affair called him away. But he'll be home by tea time, so why don't you just come right in and sit down? Poor Finn trembled in the cradle. See this, Cucullin said, pulling what looked like a pancake out of his pocket. That was a thunderbolt, until I caught it and flattened it. And that's what I'm going to do to Finn McCall, too. Tisk, 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 said Unog. And that may not be as easy as you think. Finn McCall's a big broth of a man. Why, take a look at our little baby, and you might be getting an idea of the strength and breadth of Finn himself. There, baby. Cucullin peeked at the cradle. Chirrup, said the huge baby, looking back at him. My, said Cucullin, what a big boy. While you're waiting, why not have a bite to eat, said Unog. She put some loaves of bread on the table, along with a can or 2 of butter and a pile of cabbage. That's quite a bit of food there. Cucullin, who was as much a glutton as he was a bully, popped a loaf into his mouth and took a huge bite right down on one of the frying pans. Clang! Yo! Shouted Cullen. What kind of devil's bread is this? Here are 2 of my teeth out. This is Finn's bread, the only kind he eats, said Unog. Is it a bit too tough for you? Too tough for me? Shouted Cucullin. I should say not. Just give me another. Cucullin chomped into another loaf and into another frying pan. I'll not have a tooth left in my mouth, woman. There's 2 more out, Cucullin hollered even louder. The baby began to holler too. Hungry, hungry. Ah, sweet dumpling, said Unog, and she handed baby Finn a loaf. And because there was no frying pan in it, Finn ate it right down. More, said the baby, and he gobbled up another loaf. He seems a strong lad, said Cucullin, getting a little worried. If this was the baby, the father must indeed be a bit stronger than Cucullin thought. Ah, yes, said Unog, beaming. Why, instead of dollies, he loves to play with those white stones there in his cradle. Show the nice man, baby dear. Finn did as he was told. He picked up a stone that was really the cheese and squeezed all the water out of it and popped it into his mouth and ate it down. Cucullin was not to be outdone by a baby. He grabbed a stone and squeezed. He squeezed and squeezed. Squeeze as he might, he couldn't get one drop of water out of it. He popped it into his mouth, and with a chomp, there went the rest of his teeth. The howl that came out of him almost broke all the windows. When he finally calmed down, Cucullin said to Unag, "What kind of teeth does that lad have? They must be made of iron. Let me see your choppers, baby." At that, baby Finn opened wide his mouth, and Cucullin stuck in his brass finger, the very brass finger that was the secret of his strength. With a strong bite, Finn McCall bit the brass finger right off. Then up Finn leapt and began to pound the daylights out of poor, weak Cucullin. And that was that. Out the door went Cucullin, never to bother anyone, let alone Finn McCall again. "Tea's ready, my love," said Unag. And Finn McCall sat down with the best giant wife in the whole world, and they lived a long, happy life. That's the end. In the back, it says this about the book. Stories about the popular Irish giant Finn McCall have been handed down from generation to generation. Perhaps Finn McCall is best known for the Giant's Causeway, the highway he built between Ireland and Scotland. The encounter between the giant Cucullin and Finn at Knockmany Hill is one of the funniest of Finn McCall's adventures. And then it says in here, details in the border art were inspired by early Irish jewelry and metalwork. Tomie de Paola has chosen to use William Butler Yeats spelling of Finn McCall. All right, so a couple of interesting things there. All right, pretty fun story. And, you know, this reminds me a little bit of Paul Bunyan and how some of the things that he did, the legend of Paul Bunyan, some of the things that he did around here, very similar. A giant who's done amazing things in legend, of course. I think one of the things in here that I think of right away as I'm reading this is, wow, Finn McCall had a big problem, and he was trying to avoid it. He did everything he could to run away until his wife helped him to say, let's face that problem and take care of it. No, I don't think beating up a person or a giant is probably the best course of action for most problems, but looking at problems and facing them and overcoming them is so important. Sometimes we just want to run away from our problems. But Finn McCall and his wife Unag took this problem head on and used wisdom to come up with a plan that would help them to get past this and then live happily after that. What kind of problems do you have that maybe you're a little afraid to face right now? We've all got them. I do too. How could you face those problems with wisdom? Finn McCall needed a little help. Oftentimes we do. You know, one of the cool things is that we know the ultimate source of wisdom, and that's God. And we can find his wisdom in the Bible. And so I encourage you to look in the Bible for true wisdom about how to face your everyday problems. And oftentimes that starts with prayer. Well, it should start with prayer. And then God also puts special people in our lives, like our family, to help us with those times too. So, I guess that's it. I hope you had a great St. Patrick's Day. I know the weather was awesome. I took a nice bike ride with my girls yesterday. And I hope you have an awesome spring break. I don't know if I'll be sending another read aloud out before school starts up for us, online school starts up for us on the 30th. We'll see. But I do plan on doing some more stuff like this, at least at that point. So, miss you guys, but I look forward to interacting soon with you online anyway. And I guess that's about it. So long. God bless you. Love you guys.